Hey guys, I'm in my office doing a little research, so I thought I would let you guys in on what I am reading. This is very important information. I know many people aren't going to comprehend because you're still sleeping, and when you're sleeping, you don't understand this stuff. So hopefully, if you're awake, you can comprehend this information and understand what's going on here. So researchers are fast-tracking the coronavirus vaccine by skipping animal testing. This is very important. I'm going to read this article to you. Of course, I'm going to give you guys the link as well so you can do your own research and look into this yourself to see where I got all this information from. I'm going to read the article. I'm going to break it down in layman's terms because some of the people may not know. I have somebody that I know who has been in medical research for 20 years. I've talked to them personally, and they've broken this down with me to help me understand it because I'm not in medical research. So anyways, here we go. Researchers fast-track coronavirus vaccine by skipping key animal testing. A clinical trial for an experiment corona vaccine has begun recruiting participants in Seattle, but researchers did not first show the vaccine triggered an immune response in animals, as normally required. So normally when you have a clinical trial set up and you want to start testing something, we do animals first. That's what we do. We don't want to start testing in humans right away. So they do animal testing. And if anything happens in the animal testing period, that is stopped, it is redone. You can't keep testing in a clinical trial if errors and problems come up in animals. You can't continue it to humans. It doesn't work like that. So, usually they study these things for long periods of years. So now biomedical enthusiasts are calling this a shortcut, okay? And this is a quote, quote unquote, outbreaks and national emergencies often create pressure to suspend rights, standards, and normal rules of ethical conduct. And that was quoted by Jonathan Kemenal. He's a director of McGill University Biomedical Ethics Unit. And so basically they're saying that when certain outbreaks of national emergencies arise, kind of like what we're in supposedly, they can enact certain things like martial law, taking away all of our freedoms and all of our rights. I believe we're very close to that. So go on with this article here. Typically, the vaccine development can take up to 15 to 20 years from start to finish. Mark Feinberg, president and CEO of International AIDS Vaccine Initiative. That's what he said. The lengthy process requires that scientists first give vaccines to animals to determine whether it's safe and effective in preventing the disease in question. Only after passing through very long tests in animal models and being adjusted along the way can a formulation be tested in human trials. Quote unquote, when you hear predictions about it taking at best a year or a year and a half to have a vaccine available, there's no way to come close to those timelines unless we take new approaches. What are those new approaches? So we are rushing this vaccine out in a historic time under government transparency, under their authority, under their guidelines. I mean, do you really trust the government to rush out a vaccine? Okay, so we'll move on with the article. In this context, these new approaches include skipping over some animal testing, although virologists at the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases did give the experimental vaccine to lab mice on the same day that they began human trial recruiting. Let me read that again. I can't believe this. Okay, I gotta read. Let me read this again. In this context, these new approaches include skipping over some animal testing, although virologist at the National Institute of Allergy Infectious Diseases, which is government controlled, did give the experimental vaccine to lab mice on the same day as human trials began. Usually, animal trials take years before they even get to human trials. So let me say that again. In this context, these new approaches include skipping over the animal testing. They gave the vaccine to the lab mice on the same day as human trials began recruiting participants. These mice showed a similar immune response to mice given an experimental vaccine for MERS-CoV, a related coronavirus. However, standard lab mice can't catch the novel coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2, as humans do, and efforts to breed suspectable rodents are not yet complete. He said that the mice should be available within the next few weeks. But until then, researchers can run safety tests on standard mice. So what they're saying is that mice can't catch this disease, and so they're injecting this chemical into the mice and just seeing how the mice react, even though that they don't have the virus. So they're testing mice who can't get the virus with a chemical just to see how the mice react. And then they're trying to come up with a breed of suspectable rodents. That means they're going, does that make sense? They're coming out with their own strain of mice to run tests on this chemical. Even if these preliminary animal experiments appear harmful or don't prevent infection, the conductors of the clinical trial should be prepared to stop testing the vaccine in humans, said Karen, a scholar in the biotechs of Hastings Center and the editor of the Journal of Ethics and Human Research. So there's definitely people who are trying to speak out about this, who are in the biotech field, and how they are rushing this very quickly. Let me continue. The new vaccine developed by the biotech company Moderna Therapeutics does not contain the virus that triggers COVID-19 as a conventional vaccine might. So, like the flu vaccine. The flu vaccine actually has a little bit of the flu in there, and they inject it into you, right? So your body can get used to fighting that off and build that immune system, right? Well, the new vaccine developed by Moderna Therapeutics doesn't have that, as normal vaccines would. Moderna researchers used a new technique, again, another new thing that they're using. It's not really good to be using a bunch of new things to rush this vaccination out that we're going to put into thousands of people. It just doesn't make sense to me. So they have a new vaccine the new vaccine developed by the biotechnology company Moderna does not contain the virus that triggers COVID-19 as conventional vaccines might. Instead, Moderna researchers used a new technique to make messenger RNA, which is similar to mRNA found in SARS-CoV-2. In theory, the artificial mRNA will act as an instructor to prompt human cells to build a protein found on the surface of the virus. That protein would theoretically trigger a proactive immune response. Standard vaccines work similar but use a dead or weak virus as their base, foregoing the process of constructing viral proteins from scratch. Designing the vaccine to work in this way allowed Moderna to fast-track the development process. as the company did not need to isolate and modify live samples of SARS-CoV-2 as it would for more conventional vaccines, according to the. But Monera has not put this technology to test before. The company has yet to bring such vaccines to the market. Quote unquote, we have not previously tested our rapid response capability and may be unable to produce a vaccine that successfully treats the virus in a timely manner, if at all, the company wrote in a document filed with the Securities and Exchange Commission. Assuming the method works, though, speeding through the animal testing may prove to be a good decision, especially in context to the current pandemic, Feinberg said. So that's quote unquote from somebody. While taking shortcuts may speed up the vaccine development process, but it's uncertain how much time it'll save in the long run. If this research meant a vaccine might be ready by this June, people would probably be all for it in spite of cutting the corners. That's what Holly Fernandez said, an assistant medical professor at the University of Pennsylvania. She also said, if we're talking about us getting a vaccine in June of 2021 rather than March of 2021, that's a much more uncertain scenario. We shouldn't delude ourselves into thinking that skipping over steps is going to get a vaccine to our hands by next week or next month. So, to break this down in short, what I've taken from this is that rights are going to be suspended, freedoms are going to be cut. They are rushing this out within 1 year. It usually takes 15 or 20 years to get something like this. It's going to be, 15 to 20 years from animal to human to the market. And this is only going to take 1 year. Usually, me personally, I would wait for the test to come out and then wait for them to be on the market and using it in the public on humans for about 10 to 15 years before I even want to touch it. Because we still see issues arrive after, like the CDC or any these people release something. Many times we have seen issues and problems come up way after that the tests have been approved, when they've done it responsibly. And this isn't being done responsibly. So I hope you guys take something from this. I'm going to leave the article in the description below. I want you guys to take a look at this. Please share this video. Let friends know. I try to break this down in layman's terms for you. This is not good. Studies usually take 15 to 20 years, and we don't cut corners. There's something going on with this one. So stay safe out there, my friends.